Solomon. Wealth. The greatness and wealth of Solomon, a legendary king. Today, we will travel back in time to learn the story of one of the most fascinating men who ever lived. A king whose wisdom and wealth transcended the centuries, becoming legends. We are talking about Solomon, the third king of Israel, known for his opulence, cunning, and mysteries. Are you ready to discover how he accumulated so much wealth and what it means to this day? Who was Solomon? Son of the renowned King David, Solomon inherited the throne of Israel at a decisive moment. Young, ambitious, and, above all, determined to leave his mark, he stood out for something unique: his wisdom. At the beginning of his reign, he asked God not for wealth or power, but for discernment to govern his people. And what happened? God granted him that and much more. Solomon was no ordinary king. He emerged at a time when Israel was seeking stability after the challenges faced by his father, David. Imagine a young man assuming such an influential throne and surrounded by expectations. The weight on his shoulders was colossal. But he took a path that few would choose. He abandoned personal desires and focused his request on something that would benefit all his people: the wisdom to govern with justice. And when we speak of wisdom, we are not talking about something technical or superficial. Solomon's wisdom was profound, almost divine. He understood human nature, resolved conflicts with precision, and saw beyond the obvious. His famous judgment between two women who were fighting over the motherhood of a child is just one example. With a few words, Solomon managed to reveal the truth and bring justice. This impressed not only his people, but also neighboring kingdoms. But let's not rush to talk about wealth just yet. First, we need to understand what made Solomon so special. One of Solomon's most striking characteristics is that he knew that wisdom was not a gift for himself alone. It was a responsibility. He dedicated himself to writing, teaching, and transmitting knowledge. That is why, to this day, we associate his name with works such as Proverbs, Song of Songs, and Ecclesiastes. He was not just a king. He was a teacher, a thinker, a visionary. 2. The source of his wisdom. A timeless lesson. Imagine yourself in a moment as extraordinary as this. God appears to you in a dream and tells you, clearly and bluntly, "Ask for whatever you wish, and I will give it to you." It is a proposal so magnificent that it seems to have come from some legend. Yet this was the reality that presented itself to the young King Solomon on a night that would forever change the history of humanity. He could have asked for what most people would probably ask for without hesitation: enough gold to never worry about wealth again, eternal fame to be remembered throughout the world, or even an invincible army that would grant him absolute control over any nation. But in a surprising and meaningful gesture, Solomon gave up all of that. What he asked for was something that, at the same time, cannot be seen or touched: wisdom. Not just any wisdom, but the ability to judge justly and guide his people with righteousness. He wanted to understand people's hearts, distinguish good from evil, and, above all, lead his nation in a way that would please God. And do you know what's most fascinating? This request, simple yet profound, deeply pleased God. Solomon could have chosen to enrich himself, but he chose something that would benefit not only his own life, but the lives of everyone around him. God, in his generosity, not only granted Solomon the wisdom he so desired, but also blessed him with wealth, honor, and glory like never before. Now, think with me. How often do we have the opportunity to choose something that could transform not only our lives, but also the lives of others? How often do we choose what is fleeting, when we could choose something that leaves a lasting impact? Solomon is not remembered only for the riches he accumulated or the prosperous kingdom he built, but for the profound decisions he made. He used God-given wisdom to judge fairly, as in the famous story of the two mothers who fought over the motherhood of a child. With shrewdness and discernment, he revealed the truth and ensured that justice was served. This story teaches us a universal truth: what truly matters in life cannot be bought or sold. It is the wisdom to discern, the character to choose good, and the courage to act justly that shapes a lasting legacy. Here is the question for you. If you had the same opportunity as Solomon, what would you ask for? What would be so important that it would change not only your story, but the story of others? Reflect on this. Just as Solomon had his night of choice, we all face decisions that define who we are and what we will leave as our inheritance to the world. Wisdom may not come in a dream, but it is within reach of those who seek it with sincerity and humility. So, as you finish reading this text, ask yourself, Am I seeking what really matters? If your answer is yes, know that the true source of wisdom is always ready to guide you. 3. Solomon's wealth. The secrets of an economic empire. If there is one thing that has always fascinated humanity, it is the mystery behind Solomon's extraordinary wealth. How did he manage to accumulate so much material power that he is remembered, to this day, as one of the richest men who ever lived? The answer lies not only in divine favor, but also in the cunning of an unparalleled economic strategist. Tributes from allied nations. Peace transformed into prosperity. Solomon was more than a king with spiritual gifts. He understood diplomacy. Neighboring kingdoms recognized the strength and influence of Israel under Solomon's rule. To ensure peace and strengthen alliances, these kingdoms paid high annual tributes. Imagine caravans laden with gold, silver, fine fabrics and spices crossing the desert towards Jerusalem. These tributes were more than gestures of goodwill. They were the basis of an economic system that consolidated Israel as a power in the region. Control of trade routes, the link between continents. Solomon understood the geographical importance of his kingdom. Located in one of the most strategic regions of the ancient world, Israel was the meeting point between Asia, Africa, and Europe. He transformed this privileged position into an inexhaustible source of wealth. Caravans transporting precious goods between continents had to pass through Israel, and Solomon did not waste this opportunity. He levied taxes on the trade that flowed through his lands, ensuring gigantic profits. The fleet of ships of Tarshish, wealth from the sea. Solomon did not only dominate the lands, he also dominated the seas. His naval fleet, known as the Fleet of Tarshish, was a true prodigy of the time. These ships not only sailed nearby waters, but ventured on long voyages, returning with treasures that seemed to have come straight out of fairy tales. Gold, silver, ivory, rare spices, and even exotic animals such as peacocks and monkeys. Each journey was a new opportunity to bring back riches to Israel that further cemented Solomon's status as an incomparable king. The mysterious mines of Ophir, the legendary gold. Few stories are as intriguing as those of the mines of Ophir. Legend has it that these mines were the source of the purest and most precious gold known at the time. Whether Ophir was a real place or a mythical metaphor, the fact is that the gold that arrived in Solomon's kingdom was abundant and unmatched in quality. This natural resource was used to embellish the temple, the palaces, and even everyday objects. The vision of a kingdom covered in gold became a symbol of Solomon's glory. Lessons from the king who turned his reign into an empire. Solomon's economic success was no accident. He combined his wisdom with impeccable strategic planning, making the most of the resources at his disposal. This story leaves us with a provocative question. How are we using the opportunities that are available to us? Just as Solomon knew how to turn his geographic position and diplomatic alliances into wealth, we can also learn to identify the advantages in our context and use them to grow. Solomon's wealth came not only from hidden treasures, but from the ability to think beyond the obvious and act with a long-term vision. Think about it. What if you could apply some of this wisdom to your life? Whether it's managing your resources, planning for your future, or building something that will leave a lasting legacy, Solomon's story inspires us to seek more than wealth, to seek excellence and purpose in everything we do. 4. Solomon's Temple, a symbol of glory and sacrifice. Imagine a building so magnificent that its grandeur echoes through the centuries, revered not only as an architectural landmark but as a symbol of faith, power, and opulence. This was Solomon's Temple, a monument that embodied the wealth and spirit of the people of Israel under the reign of the wise and wealthy Solomon. A majestic building. The temple was not just a building, it was a masterpiece without equal. Gold covered almost every detail, from the interior walls to the decorations that adorned the Holy of Holies, the most sacred place, where the presence of God was believed to dwell. Cedar from Lebanon, known for its durability and unique scent, was used in abundance, and precious stones completed the scenery of a place that seemed to have come from the heavens themselves. To put it in perspective, this temple was not just to impress the human eye, it represented the covenant between God and Israel, a space where the spiritual and the material met in perfect harmony. It was a landmark of the people's faith, but also a reflection of Solomon's reign, known for its unparalleled prosperity. The price of greatness. Behind the glitter of gold and the splendor of precious stones, there was a high cost. To erect a building of such magnitude, it was necessary to. It required a huge human and financial effort. Workers were recruited from all over the kingdom, many under compulsory conditions, dedicating years of their lives to the work. In addition, the high taxes imposed on the people to finance this grandiose construction brought a significant burden. Although the temple became a symbol of unity and national pride, it also sowed seeds of discontent. Many historians point out that these economic pressures contributed to social and political tensions that, after Solomon's death, would lead to the division of the kingdom. A lasting legacy. Despite its controversies, Solomon's temple left a legacy that transcended time. It became a symbol of Israel's devotion and search for God's presence. Its destruction centuries later was a moment of deep sadness for the people, but its memory has continued to inspire generations. Solomon's temple teaches us something profound about ambition, faith, and sacrifice. He was a reflection of the greatness that human beings can achieve when guided by a greater purpose, but also a reminder of the costs that come with the pursuit of glory. Today, the story raises an important question. What are we building with our lives? Just as the temple required sacrifice and effort, so too do our greatest dreams and achievements come at a price. Are we willing to pay for them? And, most importantly, are we balancing ambition with concern for the impact our actions have on others? Solomon's temple was not just a physical structure, it was a marker of all that Solomon and his people stood for. And so, each of us, to a greater or lesser extent, is also building temples, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual. What lessons can we draw from this grand story to build something that is both beautiful and meaningful, both inspiring and lasting? The answer is in our hands. 5. The visit of the Queen of Sheba, a meeting of power and wisdom. Among the many stories surrounding Solomon's reign, few are as captivating as his interaction with the enigmatic Queen of Sheba. This episode, filled with mystery, wealth, and mutual admiration, not only celebrates Solomon's wisdom, but also highlights the fascination his reign held over the ancient world. The journey of a fascinated queen. Solomon's fame had crossed deserts and seas, reaching the ears of the Queen of Sheba, ruler of a rich and powerful land, often associated with present-day Ethiopia or the southern Arabian Peninsula. Intrigued by the tales of his unparalleled wisdom and the glory of his kingdom, she decided to travel to Jerusalem to confirm whether what they said was true. But this was no ordinary visit. The queen brought with her an impressive retinue, laden with precious gifts, rare spices, brilliant stones, and a quantity of gold so vast that this offering alone would have been enough to guarantee her a place in history. A test of the king's worth. The Queen of Sheba was not there merely to admire Solomon. Her goal was to test him. She presented the king with a series of riddles and challenging questions, hoping to find some limit to his famed wisdom. But to her surprise, and perhaps delight, Solomon answered each question with ease, revealing a depth of understanding that transcended mere intelligence. More than his answers, it was his balance of spiritual wisdom and practical astuteness that most impressed the queen. Solomon was not just a king wise in words. He was a ruler whose knowledge was reflected in his ability to lead a prosperous and peaceful people. Recognition of greatness. At the end of her visit, the Queen of Sheba not only confirmed everything she had heard about Solomon, but acknowledged that the reality exceeded the rumors. She declared, "Happy are the men and servants who stand around you and continually listen to your wisdom. Blessed be the God of Israel, who has placed him on the throne to rule with justice." The queen returned to her homeland laden with gifts and mementos, but most importantly, with a deep admiration for Solomon's greatness. Their encounter became one of the most iconic milestones of the king's reign, a celebration of the impact that true wisdom can have on those who encounter it. The story of the Queen of Sheba and Solomon is more than a tale of mutual admiration. It teaches us something valuable about curiosity, humility, and appreciation. The Queen of Sheba, despite her power and wealth, was not content to listen to stories from a distance. She sought the truth, open to learning and recognizing something greater than herself. This spirit of seeking and learning invites us to ask, how willing are we to step outside our comfort zone to find true wisdom? On the other hand, Solomon not only responded to the queen's challenges with confidence, he welcomed his visit with hospitality, showing that true power does not lie in dominating, but in sharing what one has. His wisdom was a gift for everyone, not just for himself. This meeting between two giants of history reminds us that, regardless of our position or wealth, there is always something to learn and share. After all, it is through the exchange of ideas, experiences, and values that we build the most lasting legacies. What about you? Are you ready to seek wisdom, no matter where it is? The legacy and the mysteries. The story of Solomon is undoubtedly marked by incomparable riches and extraordinary wisdom. However, it is also a story full of lessons and warnings. Despite being blessed with prosperity that few achieve, Solomon succumbed to excesses and indulgences that ended up weakening the kingdom of Israel. Idolatry, deviation from the true faith, and wrong choices ended up casting a shadow over his reign, and, over time, the empire he built so much began to fragment. This is a crucial point in his journey. The wisdom he sought so much was not always enough to protect him from human error. His wealth and power were not immune to the weight of bad choices. Israel's decline serves as a reminder of how ambitions, when devoid of balance and moderation, can lead to decline. Wisdom and choices, an unmistakable legacy. However, we cannot deny the magnitude of his legacy. The wisdom that Solomon sought and achieved continues to inspire us to this day. His reign teaches us that true wisdom goes beyond mere knowledge. It involves discernment, humility, and a commitment to the greater good. It is a legacy that invites us to reflect on the impact of our choices and the consequences they bring. Solomon's wealth still fascinates generations. Many still dream of the gold and riches he possessed, but Solomon's true wealth lay in his ability to govern, his pursuit of justice, and his ability to lead with wisdom. What would you ask for? Now, here's the question we all need to ask ourselves. If we had the chance to ask for something similar to Solomon, what would we really ask for? Would it be wealth, power, or fame? Or perhaps something more precious, wisdom to guide our decisions with justice and discernment? Solomon's story challenges us to reflect on what truly matters in our lives. It's not enough to seek what is fleeting or tangible. The true legacy lies not in material riches, but in the impact we leave on the lives of those around us. So in the next episode, we'll explore more about how we can apply these lessons and how stories like Solomon's continue to shape our outlook on life and purpose. Until then, think deeply about the choices we make and what they say about who we are. See you soon. Subscribe to the channel for more reflections and learnings on how to navigate the complexities of life with wisdom and faith.